This is Ross Feingold coming to you from Taipei, Taiwan on the Taiwan Hashtag program hosted by the Storm Media Group. Earlier this week, finally, a decision by the Solomon Islands to de-recognize the Republic of China on Taiwan and establish formal diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. Why now? Why did it take so long? Well, a new government that was elected earlier this year in the Solomon Islands, they immediately announced that they were going to review all of their foreign relations, including their relations with Taiwan, or the Republic of China on Taiwan, and possibly establish diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. Why would they want to do that? Well, the People's Republic of China has been slowly establishing diplomatic relations with various countries in Oceania, in the Pacific region. This has been going on for many decades because this is an area of the world where originally most of the countries had relations with the Republic of China here on Taiwan. So one by one, over the years, these countries have switched their ties to the People's Republic of China, leaving only six left in Oceania, going into the Solomon Islands decision-making process. And why would they do it? Well, obviously, a lot of financial aid would be on offer from China. Some of it will be loans, some of it will be grants. A lot of business, Solomon Islands and the other countries typically would export much more to China than they do to Taiwan. Obviously a bigger market. And of course, speaking of markets, it's the tourism market where China has the ability through their state-owned travel agencies, state-owned airlines to drive the tourists flow to certain countries. For Solomon Islands, you don't get a lot of tourists from Taiwan. Taiwan is a small market. Tourists in Taiwan, they love to go to Japan and Korea and to places in Southeast Asia, not known for visiting the countries in Oceania that have formal diplomatic relations. They're a bit remote. Not a lot of flights from here in Taiwan to those countries, including the Solomon Islands, no direct flights. You have to go through Australia. So easy for China to say, look, we're going to drive a lot of tourists to come to your market. So again, another compelling reason why a country might switch ties. This public process has been going on for the last few weeks. A lot of bits and pieces were moving simultaneously. There was a bipartisan group of legislators from the Parliament of the Solomon Islands were working on a report. The Central Bank of the Solomon Islands issued a report. The government itself was doing its own research, and they were going to present all their findings to the Prime Minister to make a final decision. One of the reasons why there was a lot of focus on a decision this week was upcoming United Nations General Assembly meeting in New York City. Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands, he's going. He's supposed to be meeting with Vice President Mike Pence of the United States, and there was a lot of speculation that in that meeting, Vice President Pence would try to put a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister of the Solomon Islands. Don't make this switch. Stick with Taiwan. And over the course of this year, several times, United States government officials have spoken positively about Taiwan's diplomatic relations and its financial assistance with the 6 countries in Oceania which did have formal diplomatic relations with the Republic of China. Within the last 10 days, the U.S. ambassador to the Solomon Islands, who's not based in the Solomon Islands, but she flew to the Solomon Islands, also met with government officials there to focus on diplomatic relations, not just with the United States and United States assistance, but also to encourage them to continue their relationship with Taiwan. In fact, she did an interview with Taiwan's Central News Agency, a government-supported news organization here in Taiwan, where she talked about these issues. So the U.S. government was sending a lot of hints. So maybe the Solomon Islands felt some pressure to make a decision. In advance of that, another significant factor, October 1st, the National Day in the People's Republic of China coming up in a few weeks, 70th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China. They're going to have a big parade in Beijing. The Prime Minister of Solomon Islands, a lot of people speculate he wants to go to the parade. Hey, who doesn't like a parade? So he wants to go to this big parade. There'll probably be some other leaders there from countries nearby that receive financial assistance. He wants to be part of the party. He doesn't want to be left out. So he's going to go to Beijing probably for this event, and they'll toast, and he'll say, I support one China, that Taiwan's a part of China. That's typically usually in the communique that will be issued when a country switches diplomatic relations from the Republic of China to the People's Republic of China. So he had a bit of this timeline pressure. The vote in his cabinet earlier this week, there were no objections. Well, I guess that's what happens when you're the prime minister. There were some abstentions, but no objections. So he got his team to vote for the switch with no objections. A bit humiliating for Taiwan. Why? Well, let's look at some of the moving parts from the Taiwan side. Just a little over a week ago, the foreign minister and the deputy foreign minister of the Solomon Islands were here in Taipei. The foreign minister met the president of Taiwan. The foreign minister met the foreign minister of Taiwan. They had a press event where they issued a statement basically saying relations are good. We're looking forward to continuing relations. The deputy foreign minister from the Solomon Islands and from the Republic of China on Taiwan, they had a press conference where they took questions from the media. They said, no change is imminent, things look okay, relations look stable. And then the deputy foreign minister from Taiwan, Deputy Foreign Minister Xu, he flew to the Solomon Islands over the past weekend. He landed there on Monday morning. And at the airport, there were Solomon Islanders waiting for him. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs here in Taiwan distributed a photo. It was actually shown in many different media outlets here in Taiwan. It showed happy Solomon Islanders greeting the arriving Deputy Foreign Minister from Taiwan. There was one sign that said, "No China, say no to China." There was another sign that they were holding up that said, "Christians for Taiwan." Obviously, a Christian organization is very, very prominent place in society in the Solomon Islands. So these organizations mobilize people to come to the airport to welcome the arriving deputy foreign minister on Monday morning, Solomon Islands time. And what happened? By the afternoon, the Solomon Islands cabinet announced that they had voted to replace their relations with the Republic of China with People's Republic of China. So a bit humiliating to the foreign ministry of Taiwan, one would have to say. Probably would have been better off not even sending the deputy foreign minister. So by the evening here in Taiwan on Monday of this week, first the foreign minister, Joseph Wu, held a press event where he said we're discontinuing all bilateral assistance projects. Understandable decision to make. Of course, Taiwan's not going to provide financial assistance anymore if Solomon Islands has de-recognized the Republic of China. And shortly thereafter, President Tsai herself held a press event, just a statement. She didn't take any questions. Her remarks were similar to the things she said when other countries have de-recognized Taiwan. Last year, El Salvador, the Dominican Republic. So she said this is China's interference. China has given this financial aid to persuade the Solomon Islands to switch its diplomatic recognition. It's not going to change the decision made by the Solomon Islands. In fact, it might be, one could say it's a little odd. You're criticizing them for taking the money when just a few days ago you said, these are really great people, they share our values. Well, it turns out they don't share your values then because they were willing to make this change just for the sake of financial assistance. Well, be that as it may, President Tsai also said that we're not going to give in to China's pressure, and that'll probably help her with a lot of voters here in Taiwan. They like to see the president being tough on China's actions that shrink Taiwan's international space. She said we're going to continue to support Hong Kong, which is very interesting because what does that have to do with de-recognition by the Solomon Islands? But President Tsai has been very outspoken on social media about the support of her government for the protesters in Hong Kong who are demanding direct elections and the extradition bill to be withdrawn, which it already has been. So she also threw in this reference to Hong Kong. There's a lot of speculation that maybe China took this action now of persuading Solomon Islands to switch because they don't like that the government of Taiwan and President Tsai are making statements in support of Hong Kong. Probably not really a factor in the timing. As I said earlier, we're looking at this October 1st, National Day. Solomon Islands is the first country that's de-recognized Taiwan this year, and we know from the last 3 years, ever since President Tsai became president, that China likes to persuade 1 or 2 or maybe even more per year to make this switch. So it's been a while, and this process with the Solomon Islands started in April, so it was long before the protests became very active in Hong Kong. But anyway, President Tsai took a chance to mention again, we're not going to be intimidated by China doing this, and we're going to continue to support the protests in Hong Kong. That's something to keep in mind as well as far as this, all the moving parts to this issue. Very interesting reaction from Japan. Japan's de facto embassy here in Taipei issued a statement following the announcement by the Solomon Islands. This is supposedly the first time that Japan has issued a public statement when a country derecognized the Republic of China. What was interesting about this, two things. One, the fact that they even issued a statement. So they're monitoring this issue. Obviously, Japan is also an important aid provider in this region. They often work closely with the United States or Australia. They don't typically work closely with China on aid projects in the Oceania region. However, the statement said, we hope the two sides of the straits can work out their differences peacefully. So it wasn't a critical statement of China. So from Taiwan's side, you might be happy that Japan issued a statement, but you're probably not going to be happy that the statement encouraged Taiwan and China to return to dialogue. And the statement was not really critical of China. So again, if you're Taiwan, you're probably saying, well, Japan, well, what's up with your statement? You're not really taking a side. You're just in the middle again. The United States reaction. Overnight, we saw a number of U.S. senators, such as Senator Gardner, Senator Rubio, big supporters of Taiwan. They issued statements criticizing what China did, of course, and they also reiterated their support for legislation that's been sitting in the U.S. Congress called the Taipei Act. Not the Taiwan Act, not the Taiwan Relations Act, not the Taiwan Travel Act, but the Taipei Act. What will the Taipei Act do? This act will basically give the United States government the instruction that if countries change their relations with Taiwan, they downgrade their relations with Taiwan, whether it's a country that has formal relations or doesn't even have formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but any kind of downgrade, the U.S. government should respond somehow. So Solomon Islands would be a good example, that if you derecognize Taiwan, you get less U.S. aid. The problem there is the Solomon Islands and the Oceania region has been this area of competition between the United States and China, or United States, Australia working together in China. The U.S. has said publicly on many occasions in recent months that we want to be in the region. We want to provide more financial assistance to countries so that they are not going to be susceptible to Chinese pressure. So it's going to be a very difficult decision for the United States. Do you continue to work with the Solomon Islands in the aftermath of this decision, or are you going to now punish them? Anyway, we'll see if this legislation moves any faster in Congress now that the Solomon Islands has made this decision. And here's another stakeholder watch here. The other countries that have formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan. Is there going to be a snowball effect where these other countries race to get the best aid package? No one wants to be the last one to derecognize the Republic of China. They want the most money they can get from the People's Republic of China. So there might be a bit of a competition for who can be the fastest to become the next country to switch ties. So that is also an angle to watch as we go forward. Kuomintang candidate Han Kuo-yu, very interesting, struggling how to react. You know, he's perceived to be friendly to China. So he actually said, China, I don't want you to do this. Stop taking away our diplomatic allies. But then in the same statement, he also criticized President Tsai and kind of said, well, this is all because of your cross-strait policy, and that's why China's doing this. We'll see if voters agree with President Tsai's approach, or they agree with Han Kuo-yu's approach, or whether criticizing President Tsai at this moment backfires. One more politician we'll mention who had a very interesting reaction this week, as he typically does, Mayor Ko Wen-je of Taipei, who, when asked about this by the media, he said, you know what? My first reaction is we're going to save a lot of money because we're not going to give financial aid to the Solomon Islands. Pretty interesting response by Mayor Ko, but he's very well known for his direct statements. I'm Ross Feingold. You've been watching Taiwan Hashtag on the Storm Media Group.